Yesterday, all the talk was that Alex Bregman could possibly sign a short-term deal with the Cubs. Yeah, today all the momentum is it is not happening, but we knew that anyway. So we're going to get into that today. Cubs make a couple of big-time signings as far as international talent goes, and Jed Hoyer talked about non-tendering Kyle Schwarber. I don't think this is anything that's breaking news, but he regrets it and the Cubs regret it. But it was COVID, whatever. We'll get into all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you guys for being here today, part of what we're doing. And if you're at the Cubs convention, high five. I hope you're having a great time. It's going to be an awesome weekend. Let's go. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm your man, Mick, and I love you guys for being Cubs fans if you are, and if you're not, hey, thanks for coming and hanging out anyway. But this is a lifetime of Cubs baseball right here in this brain. I love the Cubs, and I know you do as well. So let's talk a little bit of Cubs here on the short today. All right, yesterday's show was one of those shows where I was like, I'm not saying I was buying into the hype because I wasn't, but there was enough smoke where I'm like, okay, we'll talk about Alex Bregman possibly coming to the Cubs, which I didn't think would happen. They're not turning down deals where they're getting pretty good offers to take a short-term deal with the Cubs, right? And that's basically what all the move is, or all the news is right now. And Bob Nightingale, our friend from the USA Today, is even talking about maybe Pete Alonso, the polar bear, taking a short-term deal. Hey, I'd take the polar bear. I don't know how we would fit him into the lineup, but a good manager could do it. But yeah, the talk was that maybe Bregman was going to do a Cody Bellinger type deal, come to the Cubs, and then today, very unlikely. Like maybe we were used by Scott Boras as a pawn to get more money. And if it happened to us, then yeah, that's part of the game. I mean, give the guy credit. He's an incredible agent for a reason. Bregman's going to turn 31 this season. Do you really want to take a year off? I don't want to say his numbers are declining, but 2019 he was one of the best players in the league, and he's at that point where he better cash in now because if things go south, he might not get that mega deal that he's looking for, and they're talking about teams like all of a sudden the Tigers being interested, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Red Sox. And so he's going to get a deal. They said that he even turned down an offer from the Red Sox already. I got a feeling he's going to end up in Boston. But I get it, man. I mean, I'm not even blaming Scott Boras on this one because I think that when you're in a contract negotiation and you don't get exactly what you want, you're going, you know what? These guys will give us more money. They're just not going to give us as long of a contract. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the big news yesterday that the Cubs were able to finally get a deal worked out with Kyle Tucker, and they avoided arbitration. And I think that's good news. I mean, I think it's really good news for both parties here because he's going to get paid next year. And for the Cubs, you might as well work it out because if you decide you want to keep him, having him pissed off over arbitration isn't going to help you at all. And they ended up giving him $16.5 million. That's fair because that's what the guy's going to – he's going to demand that and more. Jesse Rogers, our guy, broke that from ESPN, one of the best in the business. And look, I mean, that's just how it goes, man. I mean, he is a star player. And we'll see what he does in Chicago. But if he comes to Wrigley and he puts that Cubs uniform on and he performs, we might need to sign this guy. We don't need him pissed off about a couple $1 million in arbitration. So a good thing that they got that done without having a lot of animosity. And so congratulations to both sides. And it rolls right in to Cubs convention. Now the other news is that the Cubs signed a pair of top 15 international free agents in the 2025 class. Obviously they're not going to get Roki Sasaki, which would have took all their money. So now they get to go and figure out who's going to be their international signings. And they started with a guy named Juan Cabada, a 16-year-old from the Dominican Republic. He was ranked number 10 and earned $1.5 million bonus. Left-handed batter. He's got speed, quick on his feet, good arm. He's at 5'11" and 165 pounds. He's going to have to go and work out, get it figured out. But you know what? I mean, there's a lot of great players that come from the Dominican, and it starts with talent, right? And then Wilfri De La Cruz, right? $2.3 million. He was number 13 international prospect on MLB's pipeline board. He's a little bit older, but he's a big guy, 6'2", 170. And, he's a young Dominican player. Another guy comes in as a switch hitter. Still figuring out the game, but he's got power. And he's someone else that, the Cubs feel like they can kind of slide in there. And, and hopefully they get a lot of talent from. I mean, a lot of great players came from that country. You got to get them in there and teach them the game and make it happen. So they did some work in that international market, and it's going to be a while probably before we see these guys get to the major leagues. But I always like to keep an ear on, who they're signing and what happens, because once in a while you hit a grand slam with these guys and they end up being a franchise player. Now, the final thing I wanted to get in on today's show was our man Cap. David Kaplan's been on here. Gordon Wittenmeyer's been on here. He covers the Reds now, but he's still on the show with Cap. It's called David Kaplan's REKAP podcast. Love the show. Definitely one of my favorites. And they had Jed Hoyer on there. And of course, Cap's not afraid to ask the tough questions. And he asked him about, because ESPN did that list of, the worst decisions made by organizations over the last 5 years. Hey, guess what ours was? That we non-tendered Kyle Schwarber. and Jed Hoyer was like, they look back on it and they regret it. He said, we didn't have any money after COVID. We had to cut money. We had to make the move. And, and in the end, that was what the deal they did, that they ran out of patience, time, and money. But they feel like he would have been a Cub. I mean, who would have thought this, though? Look, I'm going to take up for Jed a little bit. If when you looked at it, right, would you have figured back then, 2020, that Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, and Anthony Rizzo would be, like, washed up? And that Kyle Schwarber would be the guy that's still going. And I love all those guys. Like this, I'm not saying washed up in a mean way. I'm just look at their stats. So I don't know. Like, it's not my team. I don't know what the situation was financially. But, boy, when you look back on it now, wouldn't it be great to have Kyle Schwarber right there in the middle of this lineup? Wouldn't it be great to have at least one guy that was part of the 2016 World Series team? Yeah. We don't have any of them. All right. Have a great time at Cubs Convention. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you, guys. And let's do it again tomorrow. We'll see if anything breaks. Go Cubs.